What?
I'm good. What?
You good enough?
Oh yeah, lower.
You good, Lindsay? Yep. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's regular meeting of the Woburn City Council of June 17, 2025. Just a reminder to everyone, tonight's meeting is being recorded for broadcast. Also, please silence your cell phones. If you are able, please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Higgins, if you would call a roll, please.
Counsel Campbell.
Present.
Counsel Demers.
Present.
Counsel DeMambro.
Present.
Counsel Ferrulo.
Present.
Counsel Mercer Bruin.
Present.
Counsel Papalato.
Present.
Counsel Toro.
Present.
Counsel Viola.
Present.
President Dillon.
Present.
Make a motion to dispense with the reading of the previous meeting's journal to
Second.
approve.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Make a motion to suspend the rules to take the resolve on the motions, orders, and resolutions regarding Connors Kindness Project out of order.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Thank you.
Connor, come right up. How are you tonight, Connor?
Doing good, how are you?
Tell us a little bit about your mission, what you've done, and what you plan to do.
Of course, yeah. So Connor's Kindness Project is a nonprofit that I started out of the pandemic with my grandmother. And originally it didn't really start as a real organization. It was just kind of me doing small acts in the community to help others. We did things like COVID care baskets for kids that were quarantining, baskets for nurses, with all the added stress that they had. And we eventually moved to doing work with some other nonprofits. We did work with Katie's Closet and Birthday Wishes. Not sure if you're familiar with them, but we kind of helped them with their day-to-day stuff, and that really inspired us and to create something that we could call our own. So that's when I went to my grandmother, and we eventually decided that we wanted to create our own organization. So that's how Connor's Kindness Project was started, and now we deliver kindness kits to children in hospitals and shelters all around New England. We've done over 12,000 to this point, and we also have a kids kindness club in elementary schools where we just want to get them thinking about ways they can help the community. So that's what we do now, and that's kind of how we started.
Excellent. Well, I've seen your good works, and I've gone to some of your programs you put on. You do a great job, and keep up the great work, Connor. You're a great example for not only people your age, but of all ages.
Yeah,
You do
thank
great
you.
work for the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I believe there's a resolve.
There is. Before I get to the resolve, Connor touched on a lot of his stuff. I met Connor. I've known of Connor and Connor's Kindness for a couple of years now, I think. I really got to meet Connor at the Woburn Chambers Gala this past year. At his age, the young man he is, great public speaker. I think a lot of people can take some lesson from him. But in the quick, Connor could be up here probably for hours to talk about everything that he's done and all the accomplishments and how Connor's Kindness has become nationally known, not just locally. And at such a young age, at the age of 12, the things like this, the resolves that we're about to read, is just small ways that take very little time out of our day to recognize people like Connor, and there's tons of other people in the community that do great things too. So I thought it was appropriate to recognize Connor and Connor's grandmother Sharon for an amazing organization that's only going to continue to grow. And eventually I'd love to have this council and maybe the mayor visit Connor's facility over in Cummings Park and maybe help them put together some kindness kits. I think it's great. Councilor DeMambro and I visited one day after, I think, the Community Resource Center, and looking at how organized and the stuff they put in these kits and just the operations in general is amazing for someone such a young age to have put this together with the help of his grandmother. It's awesome. But I'll stop talking, I'll read the resolve so then Connor can get out of there. But, whereas Connor's Kindness Project, a Woburn-based 501c3 nonprofit, was founded in 2021 by then 12-year-old Connor Wright. And whereas Connor's Kindness Project began as a small gesture of compassion during the COVID-19 pandemic and has since blossomed into a dynamic youth-led movement dedicated to uplifting children facing adversity and fostering a culture of kindness across New England. And whereas Connor's Kindness Project flagship initiative, the Kindness Kit program, delivers thoughtfully curated boxes filled with educational, comforting, and stress-relieving items to children experiencing medical challenges, family crises, or homelessness. And whereas as of June 2025, over 13,000 kits have been distributed to over 80 partner organizations across Massachusetts and into bordering states, including Boston Children's Hospital, Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, Ronald McDonald House, the Department of Children and Families, Respond Incorporated, and the City of Woburn's new Community Resource Center at 400 West Cummings Park. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Woburn that the Woburn City Council recognizes the achievements and accomplishments of Connor Wright and Connor's Kindness Project and extends best wishes and hopes for continued future success. Signed by President Jeff Dillon and all the members of the City Council. And Connor, if you'd like to come up here, and Sharon, we'd like to take a minute and take a couple photos, if that's, yeah,
Sure.
come right up.
Mayor Concanon?
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you.
We better get a group photo after.
Okay, tall people in the back, shorter people in the front. Hi. We'll make it work. Absolutely. Everybody smile. Awesome. Thank you.
Congratulations, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Make a motion that the resolve be adopted.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Motion to return the regular order of business.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Under new petitions, a petition by Social Capital, Inc. for a special event permit for SEI Woburn Horn Pond Summer Concert Series.
Make a motion the special event permit be granted.
Second.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Petition by Teresa's Closet for renewal of secondhand dealers and secondhand collectors license at 164 Main Street.
Make a motion the matter be referred to the Committee on Public Safety and License.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Petition by Genesis Community Church, Inc. for a special permit at 11 State Street.
Make a motion the matter be referred to a public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Make a
Now on
motion.
Public hearings.
Make a motion to suspend the rules to take public hearing regarding the Section 9 floodway and floodplain district zoning amendment as the next matter of the agenda.
Second.
There is a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
On the petition by President Dillon to amend the zoning ordinance for replacing Section 9 in its entirety and replacing it with new Section 9 floodway and floodplain district, a committee report from the Committee on Ordinance, Charter, and Rules was received, ought to pass.
Good
I
evening.
think you want to open.
I'll make a motion the public hearing's open.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. How are you, Attorney Savati?
I am well. Hello, all. We were in front of you at the committee meeting. It did go out ought to pass, but there was some questions, and we hoped to clarify some things for the council as well as the public. This won't be a long presentation, but Emily Sherbo is here from Ty and Bond. She has been a consultant from the very beginning and has been very helpful in drafting this ordinance, which, as we had stated, is a requirement from FEMA. So with that, I'll have Emily explain some of the provisions.
Thank you. Good evening. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you for coming out and giving this presentation for us.
Hi, it's my pleasure. So,
I'll get out of the
all
way.
right, because I was sick for the discussion at the committee meeting, I wanted to go back and clarify a few points where there are definitely questions from council. So first, Woburn participates in the National Flood Insurance Program, so NFIP, you'll see that a couple of times, which benefits the city in a number of ways. So this program enables property owners to purchase flood insurance and protect against financial losses. It promotes safer building practices and minimizes future flood damage. It provides the city's residents with access to disaster assistance immediately through their flood insurance without waiting for a formal disaster declaration. It also grants the city eligibility under federal grants and loans to support flood mitigation and recovery efforts. So as you can see, it's important that the city continues to participate in this program. Periodically, FEMA develops new flood hazard data and revises their existing data. The last map that we're working off of is from 2010, so it's been 15 years, so it's not something that they do very often. I've included a little QR code if people want to see. There's a document that FEMA puts out about map changes in flood insurance. We'll have that posted on the city's, the engineering website as well. Okay, so part of staying in the NFIP program, the city's required to update their ordinance. So you have to adopt the new flood insurance rate map panels, and the associated flood insurance study needs to be adopted through this updated zoning ordinance, which is section 9 before you. The ordinance is more or less prescribed what needs to be in it by the state and by FEMA. So we convened a group and we very carefully crafted this ordinance based on the state's model. It's actually been reviewed already by the state's flood hazard mitigation program, so they've provisionally approved it. They're going to look at it again, so FEMA needs, when this is adopted, FEMA will officially approve it, and that needs to be done by July 8th. Again, for the city to continue participating in the insurance program. And as you know, this is an overlay district. It includes all special flood hazard areas within the city of Woburn designated as Zone A and AE. That's more or less the 100-year floodplain, so that's not new. Those reports and maps are on file with the engineering department. There's also some interactive mapping websites where you can look at your specific property and understand whether or not you're impacted by the change. So the ordinance only applies to new construction and other activities in the floodway and floodplain district. It's not retroactive. I heard that was one of the questions that came up. However, if your property is newly mapped into a different flood risk zone, you may or may not have an impact to your insurance premiums. So that's where it gets a little bit confusing. There's more guidance out there. You know, so an example would be if you're newly mapped into a special flood hazard area, your rates could go up. If your property has a federally backed mortgage, your lender will notify you if you're subject to their mandatory flood insurance purchase requirements. So there's more that happens on the insurance end of things. There's also a newly mapped discount that residents may be able to qualify for. And so really you'd need to work with your insurance agent in the city to potentially lower some of those insurance premiums by mitigating risks through different property improvements like elevating your heating and cooling systems, elevating water heaters, electrical panels, and some of those other mechanical items. So that's some of the things that we'd be requiring in the ordinance for new development, but there are also ways to retrofit your properties. And finally, you know, We have already updated the city's engineering website with a bunch of more information, so this is some of what's there. And per city council's order, we'll be working on a mailer for the next tax bill. So that website is in progress. We're adding some more information to that website. And that is it.
Questions from the council? Councilor Demers.
So just to reiterate, and I think you can tell me if I'm wrong by saying this, but, so in order for our constituents to still access the benefits afforded to them under the National Flood Insurance Program, we have to adopt this ordinance, which basically codifies the FEMA changes to the flood map.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's not the city's changes, it's just in order for our constituents to still benefit from the NFIP, we need to adopt this ordinance to adhere to the FEMA maps that were amended.
Exactly. And it is, it more or less references the state building code that would apply within the floodplain.
Okay, great. And I'm assuming that, your working group had very little wiggle room with regards to the ordinance?
Yes.
Especially if somebody from DCR was making sure it adhered directly to all the tenets of the FEMA regulations?
Yes, they have a very detailed checklist. So when we submitted the draft, they went through their checklist and they would comment if we missed anything or if they could not find some of the language that we were required to have in the ordinance. It's very prescribed.
Okay. And with the NFIP and I know you had mentioned that some of the information was going to be on the city engineer website. The NFIP benefits will be listed there as well, or this PowerPoint maybe, so that folks can actually see what the NFIP means for them?
Yes, we can post this presentation. We had another handout that we had put together that includes some of the links to those interactive maps and then these FEMA brochures. The one that you saw screenshots in the presentation, that's a really helpful brochure that explains the flood insurance program. And there's also a link that we'd like to include to Massachusetts, has more specific information about flood insurance in the state, what's required, what's not, what are your benefits, what can you do?
Okay, are you aware of any requirement that insurance companies have to inform their clients of any changes to the flood map?
That again, so I'm not an insurance specialist, I'm an engineer, but from what I have read in the information from FEMA is it sounds like for certain federally backed mortgages, they may be proactive in reaching out. But I think the education that you've all requested makes a lot of sense too, because you know how that is. It probably makes sense for everyone to be aware if they should be expecting that call or if there are things that they should be doing now.
Great, yeah, that was one of the topics that we had discussed at the last meeting, and I know my colleagues were concerned about getting the word out to the residents, and I had spoken with Chief of Staff Kissel about this in the mayor's office, and we're hoping to find a solution that works so that we can get that information out in a tax bill to inform our constituents of that, because I know we had sent a letter off to the office to reiterate our concern that everybody be informed of the impact. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Campbell.
Yes, I was going to talk about the same type of things that Councilor Demers was just talking about. I'm very happy that everything, our biggest concern was that the taxpayers, the residents weren't going to know that the map had changed and they happened to be in a flood zone. But did I hear you say at the very beginning that the insurance company will be responsible for contacting the residents if their property is now in a flood zone?
I'm not sure if that's always the case. In the literature that I've read through, it sounds like if you have certain federally backed mortgages, there may be a requirement to have flood insurance, in which case they would likely notify you.
Okay, so it's not for sure, and that's what you were asking as well. So we did request that the information go on the tax bill, which is wonderful. It's going to be on the website, which is good. I guess I'm just still concerned. One of my main concerns is if you don't even know you're living in this new flood zone area, and then your house floods, whose responsibility is that? Obviously the homeowner, since they didn't have the insurance. It's going to be their responsibility. Did anybody on your side think about that?
So I believe the engineering department, so they are working on publishing. Right now, they have some mapping available on the website. I think they're going to publish a web viewer themselves of what they have for flood information, and it's more than what FEMA has. So you can go look at the FEMA panels, but also the city maintains their own records about flooding. So it's actually much better. So you can get a more realistic idea of, does FEMA think that you're in a floodplain, but also is there evidence from, data collected by the engineering department that there could be flooding. So I think if we send the mailer out with a link to that, they should be able to easily find their parcel and look at the information and have an understanding of, geez, is my property at risk or not? Does this have insurance implications, or is it just something that I should be personally prepared for?
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you so much.
Yes, Councilor Toral.
Thank you. Outside of the impact on the NFIP, are there any other ramifications if the council were not to adopt the newly established flood maps from FEMA?
I think that that's the biggest risk is, I'm not exactly sure. You probably would be withdrawn from the National Flood Insurance Program. So yes, property owners would lose that option. I think more on the citywide scale, thinking about overall resiliency, there are those community benefits to ensuring that any development and changes to the floodplain are done in a way that doesn't create unintentional downstream impacts. So that is something that is woven into this ordinance, as required. So if you are building and taking up space within the floodplain, that water has to go somewhere. So it is just going to impact someone else in the floodplain. So there is certainly a community benefit as well.
Thank you.
Councilor DeMambro.
So, I guess something that I'm thinking about as I've been reviewing this information, is FEMA going to ask cities and towns or states to take and mandate an upgrade in their stormwater management systems? Are they going to ask for, more resourceful ways to handle the stormwater, being now that the floodplains are growing? And it's my understanding that a lot of the stormwater is due to stormwater runoff that goes into these conservation areas, so on and so forth, plus with all the building and so on and so forth. There's less and less, pervious areas. So is FEMA going to start requesting stormwater drain pipes that have to, be put, and implemented so that the water can be carried to other areas, maybe even to the ocean?
Okay, so that sort of leaves, this particular topic. Like, I don't think that FEMA is weighing in on that here. However, because I've been working with the city on their stormwater management program for a decade, the newest permit that regulates stormwater discharges from the city has been published as a draft from EPA, and in there, I think it's not mandating any additional, bigger pipes or things like that, but it is asking communities. Ordinarily, that permit is very focused on water quality, but what it's doing, I think wisely in the new permit, is asking communities to think about both water quality and flood management when you're planning any new stormwater improvements. So taking those silos away from how we think about stormwater, it's water quality or drainage. Bring that together, so when you're investing in stormwater infrastructure, it should be serving all of those purposes at once. So I think that's the future of how stormwater will be regulated.
Because it's my understanding now, infiltration boxes seem to be the new thing. They're trying to contain it on the properties, but at some point, the saturation rate will exceed what the area can handle. So that's why I'm wondering if it needs to be transported and carried out to another area again. i.e. possibly the ocean, lucky us.
Yeah, I believe you're correct in thinking that there's going to be a combination of requiring enhanced stormwater treatment for private development, and then the city will have some obligations under the small MS4 stormwater program to do upgrades in their own, like the municipal drainage system.
Excellent. All right, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Councilor Viola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening. My only question for you tonight is, could you possibly send an electronic copy of this presentation to us so we have for our records?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Mercer Bruin.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation tonight. I did not support this. The last vote, I'm still up in the air as to whether I'm going to tonight. So I think what I heard you say in the beginning, FEMA will pay our residents in a natural flood disaster if they're within this map. They could potentially get federal funding relief in this flood area. Did I hear you say that, or am I wrong?
I don't know that it's necessarily federal money. So I think if there were a disaster declaration, that's the federal money, but that takes time. If you are under this National Flood Insurance Program and everyone has their own insurance, they can move ahead with getting back to their regular life through their private insurance.
That's what I wanted clarification on,
That's
because
my understanding of this. But
so it is the private insurance.
there's private insurance, and then again, you layer on the federal. And I mean, it also opens the door to those grants, though, and loans through FEMA, so you can resolve some like neighborhood issues if you know there's a
right.
vulnerable.
Thank you. That was such an important point to clarify for me, and I thank you for that, because at the end of the day, I don't think this is going to benefit the residents of Woburn. I think that at the end of the day, this is going to benefit a lot of insurance companies who are crying bloody murder because of a lot of the incidents that have happened across the country. And this is not your fault. You just happen to be standing there, so I'm sorry. I'm not lecturing you. I'm just trying to explain to the people at home and anyone here that cares to hear me talk. But at the end of the day, that's my biggest concern. These insurance companies make money hand over fist. Their level of profit is ridiculous. And they have a lot of lobbyists in Washington making sure their level of profit stays very high. And so we talk about helping our constituency. I don't see this helping our constituency. I see it helping the insurance companies who will make sure that policies have to be purchased now that these maps have changed, and then they will make it a living heck for them to collect even one penny, even when they can prove that damage has happened. So that's everybody on the council. This is why I am very opposed to this. I don't think this is about helping our residents. I think it's about helping the insurance companies. If somebody wants to convince me otherwise, I'm happy to listen. But the proof is in the pudding. Watch the news. Watch all these people who have suffered through the disasters, and then watch any episode of Dateline, 2020, 48 Hours, 60 Minutes, any one of them. They're all doing shows about insurance companies that don't pay when there's floods. It's terrible. But, you know, our constituents don't have the money to pay the lobbyists in Washington like these guys do. So that's my 2 cents, and thank you for listening. And thank you for your presentation.
Anyone else?
Oh, sorry, President Dillon. I just wanted to follow up. I didn't hear clearly that the notifications were actually going to be sent out in the taxpayers' bill. So through the chair to Attorney Silvati, do we have confirmation that the taxpayers will receive in their bill the new maps?
Our suggestion will be, because we haven't really vetted that process yet, our suggestion would be if the council wishes so, to add to this approval that we will, so Matt Barrett has already taken on the project of identifying those newly affected. And if we can specify them, we're going to send them notice directly to those newly affected. If we cannot do that, we would agree with the process of sending out notification in everyone's tax bill. So if you could state it that way, I think it would be more efficient to tell those newly affected than to tell all.
Okay. There's no benefit to letting the entire city know.
I don't see it. I think it would cause a little bit of a panic, and you know, it's expensive, and I just think it's more efficient.
I'm sorry. So we pay to send the tax bills out anyway, so we're not spending any extra money, right?
Well, someone has to stuff the envelopes, I guess. I think.
I'll volunteer. No, seriously? I mean.
I was told it cost money, but
Okay.
I think it would be much more efficient and better for the public if we could inform those newly affected. And if not, you can state it that way. If not, we would send it to all.
Okay. I just want to make sure no one slips through the cracks, because if we are going to take the time to do it,
We agree.
we got to make
We
sure
agree.
we get it right.
We agree. We think
Through
that
the chair.
Yeah. And I just want to add that, you know, it may not help everyone, but it could hurt those that are already in the floodplain and newly in the floodplain, because they could lose their insurance if we don't adopt this. So unfortunately, that's the handcuff we're faced with.
Thank you.
Councilor Campbell.
Yes, Attorney Salvati, can you talk more about that? Because I am listening to Counselor Mercer Bruin, and I did, Counselor Toro asked as well. So what are the ramifications? Because we were told at the committee meeting last that more or less we don't have a choice. We need to go ahead and approve this. So what happens if we don't approve it?
I think people would lose the ability to even get flood insurance,
Say that
At
again,
least
I'm
through
sorry.
through this program, definitely.
which is the best program and sometimes the only program.
And what, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Sometimes it's the only program that where they can get flood insurance. If we don't adopt this, they're all dropped from this program. So there will definitely be instances where people will lose their ability to obtain flood insurance.
Okay,
That's a
so
fact.
people who are already in the flood zone that would have flood insurance may lose their insurance.
Correct.
Okay, all right, okay, that makes sense, which is obviously not a good thing. Yeah, all right, thank you.
Anyone else? So, just from the chair, I think there's more clarification that needs to be perhaps researched. And it seems like time is of the essence. It's, I guess I'll ask the expert, not to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot. Is the negative of us voting against this more detrimental, in your opinion, to the citizens of Woburn than going forward and voting for this? And if so, just briefly again, in layman's terms, the best you can, explain why? Is that fair to ask?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, I would say it would be detrimental to vote this down for the reasons that Attorney Salvati mentioned about those that are in the floodplain now potentially losing their flood insurance through this program. I think that's the biggest impact. And then again, for future development, it may not be insurable if they're not following the design standards that are in this ordinance. So really, this ordinance points people towards the building code that they should be following to make their property insurable when they're in these high-risk areas. And I think we've all seen the impacts of local flooding and how hard it's been raining and what happens to your streets and properties. So this is the best way for the city to protect those in those vulnerable areas.
One last question. How long has, if yourself or Attorney Savati knows, how long has the city of Woburn been involved in this program that we're at risk of losing if we vote it down.
Ooh,
Do you remember? I mean, I think since at least 2010.
I would say since the prior map, since,
Okay, 2010.
yeah.
Very good. That's the only questions I have. Councilor Boone?
Could we get the numbers of how many people in this city actually have this insurance?
That
Through-
have,
that have the
flood in-
insurance as a result of this law?
I don't know if that's a knowable quantity. I mean, it's a private matter whether they have flood insurance or not, I guess. Sometimes it depends on whether
But
they
flood
have a home.
insurance, but not flood insurance
You mean
specifically.
whether
Flood
they're in
insurance
the
through this
zone.
particular program that you said is
Oh,
one that's a government program and people have more access to and wouldn't necessarily have access to flood insurance, but this program they would have access to.
yeah, I don't know if that's public knowledge. We could certainly ask that.
Gosh, I would, through the chair, I would hope so, given all these rules and regulations they're putting around it. I would think it would be
I would think.
public information. When,
Don't have it handy.
when you own a property, well, here's the thing. When this happens, all those people who weren't in the flood zone are not going to be in the flood zone, and that's going to be public information. So
Right.
I just think it's a fair question to know how many people have it. If we found out nobody has it, then it might be a different conversation.
Councilor Demirs?
Yeah, I think we're getting in the weeds in the sense of the fact that I agree with Councilor Mercer Bruin in the sense that this is a federal mandate, that we would have to adhere it or our constituents would lose certain benefits and the ability to purchase flood insurance. I just think, we're probably not going to be able to get data about what a private entity is purchasing from a private entity because we don't own the properties that they're insuring. I think it would be a violation of privacy to ask for that information. I'm sure that there might be an overall statistic maybe somewhere, but would we be getting that before July 8th where we need to pass this? The other thing that I have a concern with too is, are we going to take a principled stand here today against the federal government or against overreach at the detriment of our constituents? I mean, there's a place and a time for that debate. We can all reach out to Congresswoman Clark and complain about this, or Senators Warren and Markey, if it really bothers us that much. But I would hate to see that taking a stance, a principled political stance, albeit principled, and we do deal with mandates all the time from both the federal and state government, and I agree, they're a pain. However, I would hate to put our constituents at risk of not having the ability to gain this vital flood insurance, or even being dropped if Woburn was dropped from the National Flood Insurance Program. I think it's just detrimental in so many ways that, if we could feel great about fighting back against the federal government or the state, but is it going to be an overall long-term detriment to our constituents as opposed to, are we going to actually make headway by reaching out to our congressional delegation about this? I don't know. I just think, the way I was asking Emily those questions about trying to find out why are we in the National Flood Insurance Program, I think there are benefits to that within the insurance market for our constituents. No, it's not going to guarantee them payouts from FEMA. There needs to be certain declarations, there needs to be certain events, there needs to be certain criteria that they'll meet. But to have somebody be told that they either can't purchase flood insurance because we didn't do something to insure their house when it's in a floodplain, or to find out that houses now are insurable when they go to renew because we don't have this ordinance in place and we're not a member of the National Flood Insurance Plan, I think it's just us not doing our job, and it's a detriment to our constituents. So, I don't know, it's just my opinion. I do understand my colleagues' concerns. It's just this is something that I wouldn't want to risk the livelihood of our constituents, especially the insurance on the number one investment that families can have, just to make a political point. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Viola?
Thank you. Just a quick Google check. I Googled it quickly to see what would happen if a city or town did not approve an NFIP. And some of the key consequences are suspension from the NFIP, which is the most significant to any community from suspending the IP, NFIP would mean flood insurance through the NFIP would no longer be available to property owners in the community, even if they're in a high-risk flood area. Federal funding for building projects in the flood hazard areas would be restricted, and federally backed mortgages for properties in the special flood hazard area would be limited as well. And then it says there's also limited access to disaster relief, reduced protection for citizens, and then legal challenges possibly by residents in the community that could be taken up upon the city. So, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Councilor Boone.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with having the conversation about what this means for the residents of Woburn outside of what's going on with the federal government. At the end of the day, when I ask the question, how many people in Woburn have flood insurance? That's not a question of privacy or not privacy. This is going to be a very public document. It's going to be up on the city website. There's going to be a map that says, hey, all you people in Central Square, guess what? Now you're in the flood zone, or whatever they happen to be from. That's not going to be private. So to get an understanding, we have till July 8th. What's the big deal to try to get more information? I don't understand why that is such a hardship for us to try to gather that information. Convince me. Convince me. I'm worried about this hurting our constituents. I know what you just read off the website, but I also know what I see happening in the real world. So,
From the chair, our next meeting is July 15th. We don't have our July 1st meeting. So that's why I had spoken, time is of the essence in this matter.
Right.
Though you bring up a good point. Again, sorry, Emily, I'm coming right back here. What if we were late on doing this and we didn't do it by July 15th? Is you automatically out? You are. Thank you.
It is a hard deadline, July 8th, and it's not even, it needs to get back to FEMA by the end of this month for them to review it and approve it by July 8th.
Thank you.
According to a letter we received.
Thank you. Yes.
how about a
Councilor
compromise,
Macedonia.
President Dillon?
Sure.
If the vote has to happen tonight, that this council make a commitment to having a public meeting about all of this and not just sending out a couple of pieces of paper in the mail, so that people can understand and hear all the arguments tonight of why it was supported or not supported, or what we might be able to do moving forward. Would that be something we could do, a neighborhood meeting, some more outreach about what's happening?
Sure, we could put that in the form of a motion. see
I'll
if-
make that in a form of a motion, so that once these maps are changed, this city holds a meeting to talk about the implications of those changes.
They have changed currently
President?
already. They're in place.
We have no control over the map.
I thought that's what this,
No,
This is an ordinance.
but the map is part of the ordinance. We're expanding the map.
The map's gonna be the map no matter what, whether
Right.
we adopt this or not.
the map is already prepared.
It's not,
The map
place.
is created by FEMA, and the ordinance is redelineating the overlay district to match the new map.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilor Ferrullo.
through the chair, Alderman Marissa, would it be helpful to get the number of homes impacted without digging into the number of homes that have made the personal decision to get the insurance? Where we could say, we have 1,000 homes now, we'll have 1,400 homes after the new map. I think that information will be available through the engineering department, as opposed to saying who's written a check to an insurance company to insure their home, where we're looking at the number of people that the population impacted, without getting into their personal business of the insurance. I
Through the
think that's
chair
some-
to,
Yes.
yes, that would be very helpful. Thank you. Could we get,
Can we, and I'm not sure the right time to do this, could we ask the engineering department to
could.
provide us that number?
he's working on that now.
So, okay,
He is working
thank
on
you, Mark.
that. Councilor Papalato.
Thank you. So this is a complicated situation here, right? You hear everyone has kind of a different view of this. How did we get to the point we are today where our backs are up against the wall where we have to do something immediately?
Well, I think it's twofold. One is that the map has not been really totally adopted, and it took a while. We
Yeah,
did
it's a
everything
long
that's been-
process.
And our own process of going through the whole zoning, changing the whole section, took a while with our team as well, so. And I-
It's unfortunate that we
Yeah,
got
it
pinned
is.
against the wall here, that's all.
And make a comment.
Councilman
And I feel badly that we are here and our backs are up against the wall, but I will say this. In my 19 years of doing this, I've seen that happen a lot. I would think that in this case, there was so much work, it just didn't find its way down, I hope. But I've seen things come down here at the last minute, and people say, you must, you must, you must. Here's the deadline. Makes me crazy. This is an important, very important matter. I think the residents of the city should have known more about it. But at the end of the day, I will support it tonight if there's that much concern. It's going to hurt the residents, but I would very much like to know how many people in the city will be impacted before July 8th.
Based on the conversation with engineering, is that something that seems possible?
I believe that's possible.
Thank you, President Dillon.
Yes.
Public hearing's still
Public
open.
hearing.
Yeah. Is there anyone here in the audience that would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
A motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Make a motion that the order be adopted by roll call?
Second.
Roll call.
Second.
Motion made and second that the order be adopted by roll call. Counsel Campbell.
Aye.
Counsel Demers.
Aye.
Counsel DeMambro.
Aye.
Counsel Ferrullo.
Aye.
Counsel Mercer Bruin.
Aye.
Counsel Papalato.
Aye.
Counsel Toro.
Aye.
Counsel Viola.
Aye.
President Dillon.
Aye. That passes.
Make a motion to return to the regular order?
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second to return to the regular order. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Next item on the agenda is Veer Inc. for a special permit under section 5.157A to allow for outdoor accessory storage, trailers, and containers for use in research and development at 45 Industrial Parkway. A committee report was received from the Committee on Special Permits was received, ought to pass with
17.
17 conditions.
Attorney Giuliano, how are you tonight?
Very well, Mr. President, thank you. For the record, Attorney James Giuliano, Giuliano Law Group, 607 Main Street here in Woburn, on behalf of Veer Inc. As you recall, we are seeking a special permit under Section 5.1.57A on the property located at 47 Industrial Parkway for the use of, to allow parking of accessory storage containers to be used in connection with research and development by my client, Veer. We did have open the public hearing on May 20th, sent to committee on June 4th, where the committee did give a recommendation that it ought to pass with those 17 conditions that Madam Clerk referenced. I do have them here with me tonight if you want to resubmit them, but they were the same as of the record of the committee meeting without any changes. So that being said, we can certainly answer any additional follow-up questions that the council may have, but we do ask that you approve the special permit with those 17 conditions tonight.
Councilor Demers.
No, I just want to commend the ward counselor as well as Attorney Giuliano and your petitioner or your client. They've done a respectable business in Woburn. We've had a petition come before, and I've heard of no problems. So I commend the work that's being done, and I look forward to supporting the measures. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
President Dillon?
Yes, Councilman Mercer Bruin.
I just want to echo those sentiments. This has been a long process. Councilor Demers, Councilor DeMambro, and yourself both worked very hard on it, so nicely done to see it come over the finish line.
Councilor DeMambro.
Council, I just want to thank you and the cooperation of Veer and all of their staff and the engineers and everything, and you know, taking the time to talk with New Path and the adjacent neighbors, and You and I going back and forth on the conditions, and I think, even though we spent a lot of time on it, I think it went really smooth, and I am in support of this. I feel comfortable with it. I think we vetted it far, far and above, anyone else. So I am in support of this, and I would make a motion that we pass this evening.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward. Seeing no one?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Make a motion that the special permit be granted, subject to the conditions as outlined in the committee report.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Good
again,
luck to
everyone.
your client.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Attorney.
Thank you. Good luck.
Next on the agenda, on the petition by John W. Egan Company for a special permit under the Woburn zoning ordinance section 5.1 subsection 57B to allow for overnight parking of 3 commercial vehicles and modification of previously issued special permit to update the site plan of record at 6 Draper Street. A communication dated May 22nd, 2025, was received from John Cashel, the planning director, and those are the communications.
Make a motion that communications are received, made part of the permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Attorney Tabby, how are you tonight?
Very well, thank you. For the record, Attorney Joseph Tabby with the law firm of Rubin and Redmond, 500 Unicorn Park Drive in Woburn. Here on behalf of John W. Egan Company, Inc. With me this evening is Robert Belisle, who's the president of John W. Egan. Petitioner is seeking a special permit under section 5.157B to allow for the overnight parking of 3 commercial vehicles and to modify previous special permit decision by amending the site plan of record. The petitioner that was just before you formerly occupied a portion of 6 Draper Street and has moved. There was a plan with that petition, and we're seeking to replace the plan with the new plan. What I'd like to do, before I go any further, is submit 2 documents. One is a revised site plan, and the only revision is that we provided 3 spaces for the trucks that will fit the size of the trucks. You'll see that on the plan. And then I have a set of 4 proposed conditions that I'd like to discuss at the end of the hearing.
Make a motion that we receive the papers and make it part of the permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, the property at 6 Draper Street is located in the industrial general zoning district, which allows the overnight parking of commercial vehicles by special permit from the city council. The principal use is corporate offices, business service, and business sale establishment is allowed by right under the zoning ordinance. So the property at 6 Draper Street is just under 2 acres. There's a 1-story commercial building that was constructed in 1999 that contains approximately 10,000 square feet of floor area on the property. Petitioner is seeking to park 3 commercial vehicles as part of its business operations on the premises. The 3 vehicles will be, 1, a Ford F-150. The second one would be a Ford F-350 rack body truck, and the third would be a Ford F-550 rack body truck as well. As you can see from the site plan, there's sufficient spaces for the parking of all the vehicles on the site, including the 3 commercial vehicles in designated spots, as you see on the revised site plan. 18 spaces are required for the petitioner's use, plus 3 for the commercial vehicles, for a total of 21. There are 22 spaces available on the property. So the petitioner began its business operations approximately 78 years ago with a focus on providing high-quality commercial painting services that protect commercial structures against corrosion, extreme weather, and other environmental conditions. The petitioner has operated its business for approximately 60 years in West Newton, and would now like to relocate to Woburn at 6 Draper Street. Petitioner will occupy the entire building for its corporate offices and accessory storage of its tools and equipment. And on site, there'll be approximately 8 to 10 employees that will work at the building. So the planning director issued comments on May 22nd, 2025, and had no issues with the proposal. I have submitted to you proposed conditions in the event we feel we can move this evening. The 4 conditions being condition 1, the typical plan referencing the plan of record. 2, dumpster requirements under the zoning ordinance in Title 8, Section 7. And 3, commercial vehicles parked overnight on the site will have to be registered in the city of Woburn. And number 4, that all conditions of any prior special permits remain in effect unless modified. So that ends my presentation. Be glad to answer any questions on this.
Questions for
petition.
Attorney Tarby? Councilor DeMambo.
I'm very familiar with this site. I used to work up there. That was Advanced Welding's old shop. That site can handle, I know for a fact, flatbeds, triacs, dump trucks, dump trailers, heavy equipment. It doesn't look like it's a lot of area from down below at Draper Street, but it can handle it up there, as well as there was numerous deliveries going to and from that site. Again, it was a welding shop. They did a lot of fabrication work. A lot of stuff, came in and went out, and they did amazing work. So I have no exception to any of this. I would just suggest, being it is a higher elevation from Draper Street, and it is gated, and I understand that, I would definitely suggest, some lighting up there as well as cameras to keep an eye on the equipment, just because it does have a higher elevation, and there has been times when there's been a little mischief up there. So I'm in support of it. Thank you.
And one thing I forgot to mention is that petitioner plans to, repaint the building and make it look a lot better, since it's going to be the corporate headquarters.
Councilor Papalato.
Thank you. I spoke with Attorney Tarby earlier today. We went through some of this, and I'm comfortable with everything that's on here, and I support this.
Thank you. Councilor Viola.
Evening, Councilor Tarby. How are you?
Right, thank you.
The current storage trailers that are on the property, will those be removed, or are they going to stay?
They're not part of his operation. I believe they're part of Via's operation, and they'll be moved. He's going to be purchasing the building.
Thank you.
Councilor Mercer Bowen.
Thank you. The only thing I don't see, Attorney Tarby, on the proposed conditions is the number of vehicles highlighted. It just says all commercial vehicles parked overnight. You're talking about 3, right?
3, right.
Yeah, so I think somewhere in the conditions it should say 3. And you said a Ford F-150, a 350, a Ford F-150, a 350, and a 550?
Yeah, there's a Ford F-150.
550 rack or 350 rack?
A Ford F-350 and a Ford F-550.
That would be my only recommendation, is that we highlight what how many vehicles there are. There's 3. And it is an F-150, F-350, and an F-550. And I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
So on condition,
Is it to amend?
to amend condition number 3, there'll be 3 commercial vehicles parked overnight at the site, that they shall be registered in the city of Woburn, and the vehicles shall be as described here tonight: a Ford F-150, a Ford F-350, and a Ford F-550.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Any other questions for Attorney Tybee?
Make a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second to open the public hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Is there anyone here in the audience that would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Make a motion the special permit be granted, subjected to the 4 conditions as outlined.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Congratulations, good luck.
Where'd they go? Oh.
Next item on the agenda is petition by Commonwealth Investment Properties LLC for a special permit under section 5.1 subsection 69 and section 7.3 to allow for the demolition and reconstruction of a new 3-family dwelling at 1 Richmond Park. A communication dated May 22nd, 2025 was received from John Cashow, the planning director. And further communication dated June 13th, 2025 was received from Jay Duran, the superintendent of public works.
Make a motion the communications are received, made part of the permanent record.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Attorney Tybee, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. Attorney Joseph Tybee, Rubin and Redmond, 500 Unicorn Park Drive in Woburn, on behalf of the petitioner. With me this evening is Nick Moscarito of Commonwealth Investment Properties, the owner of the property at 1 Richmond Park. What I'd like to submit for the record are 2 documents. 1, elevation plans of the proposed building, and 2, before and after photos of a building that was rehabbed by my clients on Prospect Street. The first photo is the after, the second photo is the before.
Make a motion the papers be received, made part of the permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the petitioner is seeking special permits under 5.169 and section 7.3 of the zoning ordinance to allow for the following. 1, the extension and alteration of the existing non-conforming structure, which is a 3-family dwelling at 1 Richmond Park, to allow for the structure to be demolished and a new 3-family dwelling be built. And the plan would be that these would be 3 condominiums for sale on this property. The structure at 1 Richmond Park is non-conforming. because it doesn't meet dimensional regulations for minimum lot size, minimum street frontage, front yard setback, left yard setback, rear yard setback, lot coverage, and landscape open space. Also looking for the continued use of all existing parking spaces as shown on the plan. The reconstruction of the new dwelling, which I indicated, the plan would be for 3 condominiums, would increase the rear yard setback from 7.4 feet to 13.7 feet. It would increase the left yard, side yard setback from 2.4 feet to 10 feet. And landscape open space would increase from 0, which is there now, to 38.4%. There'd be landscaping planted while the pavement is now. In addition, there'll be 3 on-site parking spaces. Each unit will provide for 2 parking spaces in each of the 3 garages for a total of 9 off-street parking spaces. With this petition, we submitted an area map, and we also submitted a site plan showing the existing dwelling. This property is located in the R2 zoning district, and according to the assessor's office and the records at the Department of Inspectional Services, the original dwelling was constructed in 1890, and as a result of the current dimensional regulations in the current zoning ordinance, the structure is non-conforming because of the setbacks and other dimensional regulations that I previously mentioned. Petitioner is seeking to demolish the house that was damaged by fire on May 28th of 2024 and rebuild a new 3-family dwelling that will be more in compliance with the dimensional regulations set forth in the zoning ordinance. Each unit will include a 2-car garage, a kitchen and living room area on the first floor, along with a half bath. Second floor, each unit will have 2 bedrooms, and there'll be 1 full bathroom on the second floor. And like I said, in addition to the 6 garage spaces, there'll be 3 additional on-site parking spaces. So if you look at Richmond Park, there are 6 structures on Richmond Park. There are 2 3-family dwellings. There are 2 2-family dwellings, one of which is a 2-unit condominium, and there are 2 single-family dwellings. So the proposed dwelling is not changing from, 3 units to 5 units, it's 3 to 3. So as a result of that, there won't be any increase in, traffic, sewerage, water usage, all the municipal utilities that will be connected to that site. The dwelling will become an upgraded 3-family dwelling that will now provide for off-street parking and an increase in open space. Planning Director forwarded comments dated May 22nd, 2025, and took no exception to the proposal. We did receive comments from the DPW superintendent that we will address in committee. One has to do with showing utilities on the plan. We need to revise the site plan to show where the utilities are. And then it's my understanding that Richmond Park may be under a paving moratorium, and if that's the case, then DPW requires repavement from curb to curb and 30 feet from point of penetration in each area, so we'd want to show that on the plan as well. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have now, or we can wait till we get to committee.
Councilor Toro.
Thank you. Councilor Tarby, what's the height of this structure compared to the?
The height of the structure? Yeah. Just bear with me for 1 second here. Trying to find the site plan here. Okay, the height is, engineers got it listed as 2.5 stories, 35 feet.
That was my only question for now. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Can I just make a
Yes,
quick?
Councilor Campbell.
I haven't been down there, and I do want to take a look. But I have to say, it's not a very appealing building. I don't know how the other neighbors would feel about having something like this right in their neighborhood, unless the others are similar. You're going from something that is, you're saying is a three-family, to something that's very,
These are unrelated.
oh,
They're unrelated. This is an old project he did on Prospect Street.
oh, sorry. Okay, all right. I guess I was looking at this one, but still, I
Oh,
have to, I'm thinking this is a big difference. But still, this one in particular. Oh, really? That beautiful building is being torn down to,
Burnt down.
the whole thing is gone? The whole building is burnt?
It was a fire, well, I'm not sure the extent of the fire, but
Okay, I guess I just would like to say that in my view, I would not want this in my neighborhood, design-wise, especially going after what was there. What a gorgeous building. But I haven't gone down there to look at
Yeah.
what else has been done. So obviously, I'm going to do that, and we can discuss it in committee.
yeah, we'll be glad to meet you on site so we can just give you an idea where everything's gonna lay
Yeah,
out.
thank you.
Second.
Second.
A motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward.
This house.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Just state your name and address, please.
Sure. Good evening. My name's Colleen Doyle. I live at 3 Richmond Park in Unit 1. I'm one of the owners of those condos that they referenced.
Hold-
I'm a direct abutter, and we have 2 other residents. as
Okay,
well.
can you start over just for the clerk, please?
Oh, sure. Colleen Doyle at 3 Richmond Park, Unit 1. I'm a direct abutter, and there are 2 other abutters here as well tonight. Our driveway is right on the property line and the foundation of the current house. So we have some requests and considerations and notifications we'd like to receive. First, I have a 1-month-old, and we would like to receive advance notification when demolition is going to start, as I'm concerned about the air quality. It's been abandoned now for over a year. And it's an old house, so it may have lead and asbestos. And with the water damage from putting out the fire, I'm sure there's toxic mold growing in the house. In addition, we've had a rodent problem. We know there's animals living in there. So we would like to not be there when the house is being torn down. Second, we know demolition will destroy our driveway, so that will need to be repaved. And we also want to know, will access to our driveway be required or restricted during construction? Will there need to be access to our property in general during constructions? If so, will we be granted a construction easement? Third, I want to ensure that any debris is cleaned from our yard during the demo and construction process. We're constantly finding glass and nails in our lawn and driveway from when the fire happened. We're still finding it after a year. Fourth, we'd like you to consider adding a fence to be constructed between the backyards up to where the proposed driveway is to the left of the property for privacy, because it looks like there's going to be some patio area back there. I'd also like some stipulations that the landscaping be maintained, as it's not right now. It's all paved, but there's cracks and weeds growing that are coming into our yard. There's also a tree stump that straddles both properties. We've taken the tree down, but we'd like that stump to come out during the paving process. Something to note as well is the way the property is lined up now. There's 2 on-street parking spaces that can be utilized. With this proposed plan, that would take some on-street parking away from the street. It's a small dead-end street. Lastly, we would like this to move forward as the building is a hazard during storms and high winds. We have siding falling off all the time, more glass and debris coming into our yard. And as I said before, it has caused a rodent problem. And we have not seen the elevation plans, we've just seen the plot plans. So if we could see that as well, because we have not seen that when I came into City Hall to look at the plans. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in this matter? How are you tonight, sir?
Good, good.
Just your name and address, please.
My name is Joe Upton. I'm on 47 Warren Ave, and I've been a butter since 1966 to this property. And this gentleman has owned this property since 2014. And he hasn't done a very good job maintaining the property. He has a tree is over 100 years old, and it drops everything in my yard. I've had to spend almost $1,000 to trim it up 2 times. I've never seen him since 2014 do any trimming, any cleaning up, anything about that tree. And if you go look at the property, there's an old cement garage, and it's loaded behind it with all the trash that's been coming from that tree for years. And it's a place where bugs and everything else is there. When he had the fire, it never was completely closed up. The back window is open, animals are going in there. It's full of all kinds of stuff. And we'd like to see it come down, and we'd like to see a good unit put in there that a homeowner would have it in new apartments. Because we've been dealing with a variety of people for 11 years, coming and going. They back into my fence. The tree is lifting up my fence. I moved my fence in twice already over the last years. And that gentleman has done nothing. Back in 2020, we had a microburst. Took the top of the tree down. I had $6,000 worth of damage. I called the gentleman to tell him about it. What did he do? He hung up. That's what I'm dealing with. And that's why I oppose to what's going on. I didn't hear anything about taking that tree down. And it should be taken down because it's a hazard. And it just creates all kinds of process. But I'd like to see a good unit get in there that someone else would own. But I also have questions about the parking. Because you got a dead-end street. It's only about 150 yards long. And right now I can count 18 to 20 vehicles on that street. Also, the people that visit and have to treat the people in the senior citizens, they come up and they park there. Not to mention all the other things that happen with the houses when they have to have repairmen and everything else. And there are young children on the street. And right now it's a turnover, so you're going to have more and more young children in that area. So I think these things have to be taken under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in this matter? How are you tonight?
Thank you. My name is Natalia Ryzhenka. I live in front of this house that we're talking about.
What address do you live at?
The address?
It's Richmond Park 4.
Thank you.
So, and I absolutely agree with Joe Upton, who mentioned everything about this property. I think this fire was negligent for owner too, because he never cared about this house. Also, sometime in the winter, that left side is closed for cleaning of the snow. Cars park wrong way because it's not enough space. It's not very big space for parking, especially if it's not 2 cars for family, but 3. Sometimes it's happened, yes. It's not, we cannot say only 2. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward. Seeing no one.
I'll make a motion the public hearing be continued to the regular meeting of the City Council on July 15th, and the matter be referred to the Committee on Special Permits.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Next item on the agenda is a non-Patel for a special permit under the Woburn zoning ordinance, section 5.1, subsection 29. and section 8.2.5, and modification of a previously issued special permit to allow for the replacement of Bob's Discount Furniture with a supermarket, the use of approximately 980 square feet for dining and grab-and-go area with kitchen, reduction of required parking from 302 to 296, and an amended site plan at 112 Commerce Way. Communication dated May 22nd, 2025, was received from John Cashel, the planning director. Further, a communication dated June 12th, 2025, was received from Alex Rizicki, the city engineer, and further communication dated June 13th, 2025, was received from Jay Duran, superintendent of public works.
Make a motion, we receive the communications and make it part of the permanent record.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Attorney Tybee, you have the floor, sir.
Good evening. For the record, Attorney Joseph Tabby, Reuben and Redmond, 500 Unicorn Park Drive in Woburn. Here on behalf of the petitioner. With me this evening is Anant Patel, Ashok Patel, Nick Delacava of Allen and Major, and Scott Thornton of Vanass and Associates. We will be making a PowerPoint presentation tonight, and we do have copies for you all here I'd like to submit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good.
Make a motion that we receive the papers and make them part of the permanent record. Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
The random. I was reading this X statement.
Thank you, Lizzie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Attorney Tybee, you going with this now?
Yeah, we're trying to get it working here.
No problem, you take your time.
I'm gonna review the special permit request while Nick's trying to get the PowerPoint working here. So petitioner has filed requests for special permits under section 5.129 and section 8.2.5 for the City of Woburn zoning ordinance, along with a modification to two previous special permit decisions, one dated November 22nd, 2007, and one dated May 29, 2008. Those decisions allowed for the construction of a retail shopping center in excess of 15,000 square feet, at the time 54,914 square feet, allowed for a fast food restaurant, and allowed for the accessory parking of commercial vehicles at 112 Commerce Way. The petition before you is seeking to replace Bob's Discount Furniture with an Indian and ethnic supermarket, and the use of approximately 980 square feet of net floor area for a dining, grab-and-go area, similar to other food marts in the city of Woburn, and to allow for a reduction in required parking from 302 to 296, as shown on the plan, along with the amended site plan of record, which we filed with the petition, and you have a copy as part of the PowerPoint this evening. The original tenants at the shopping center were pet care facility, PetSmart, that's still there. Retail user was Bob's Discount Furniture, And the fast food restaurant is Chipotle, that's still there. So with the special permit petition, we submitted a development impact statement dated April 25th, 2025, prepared by Allen and Major Associates. We also submitted a transportation impact assessment entitled Proposed Supermarket Development 114 Commerce Way, Woburn, Massachusetts, prepared by Vanasson Associates. The property along Commerce Way is located in a BI zoning district, which allows for the shopping center by special permit that was granted back in 2007. The property contains approximately 5 acres. And the previous approvals, as they indicated, one was on November 22nd of 2007. That allowed for a retail shopping center at that time of 47,010 square feet and a fast food restaurant. And there was a second special permit that was granted allowing for a pet care facility, which was a separate use at that time. On May 29th of 2008, the council issued 2 modifications to the 2007 special permit. One, an amended site plan that allowed for an additional 6,999 square feet, which brought the total of the shopping center up to 54,000 square feet. And then the fast food restaurant as originally approved, and then at the time, Bob's had, 2 or 3 commercial vehicles that were allowed to be parked overnight on the premises, and then there was an amended site plan. So the proposed use would be as a Patadar supermarket that would occupy Bob's discount furniture space. The supermarket is a premium store for Indian and ethnic groceries, specializing in top quality groceries, great customer service, and affordable prices. The plans provide for the supermarket, as they indicated, to occupy Bob's discount furniture space. The grab and go area and kitchen prep area will be similar to Whole Foods on Cambridge Road, but on a smaller scale, and similar to what you saw recently with Abner Bazaar. Hours of operation will be 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days per week. And petitioner plans to employ approximately 50 people at this location. Planning board has, planning department, I should say, has forwarded its comments. They had no issues with the proposal, commenting on no changes to the exterior of the building, the exterior of the site, drainage, or any other site conditions. So what I'd like to do at this time is to introduce Nick Delacava of Allen Major, who will review the site plan and address comments from DPW superintendent and the city engineer, and then we'll turn it over to Scott Thornton of Vanasson Associates, who will review his transportation impact assessment. So Nick.
Thank you, Joe.
Good there?
Yep, for the record, Nick Delacava with Allen Major Associates, site civils for the project. As Joe mentioned, the property is located in the Interstate Business District. There are no proposed hardscape improvements or modifications to the exterior of the building, and therefore there are no changes to the existing zoning dimensional requirements at the property. For parking, the collective uses require 302 spaces. There are 297 existing spaces on the property. One of those will be converted to a cart corral. It's shown there as the green box just in front of the building. Therefore, there will be 296 proposed total spaces under the proposed condition, requiring a relief of 6 parking spaces total. Deliveries and trash collection will be handled in the same way that they do today. There's access into the site off a signalized intersection off of Commerce Way. Delivery trucks enter at that location, travel to the back of the site where there's a loading dock, and then exit back out onto Commerce Way through a one-way right turn only exit, curb cut. We did receive a memo from DPW Superintendent Jay Durand dated June 12, 2025. It seems there was a little bit of confusion as to what utilities were being proposed and what utilities were existing on the property. There are no modifications proposed to the existing domestic and fire water services. The existing services will remain under the proposed condition. Similarly with the gas, there is no new gas service being proposed here. There is existing gas on the site, and that will remain. For storm drains, again, there's no modifications to the site plan. All the existing curbing, landscaped islands will remain as it is today, and therefore we aren't proposing any modifications to the stormwater management system. The only modification we are making is to the sanitary sewer. The grab-and-go kitchen use requires a grease trap. We are proposing a 1,500-gallon grease trap on the exterior of the building up at the front. That will be a designated kitchen service, which will connect to the sanitary sewer that exists within the property. And with that, I'll hand it off to Scott to kind of dive into some of the traffic, and then we can answer any questions that you have.
Good evening, Scott Thornton with Vanessa and Associates, here to present the traffic assessment conducted for the project. Just a few slides going over the study area first. We developed this, the scope of the traffic study, talking with Jay Corey and Alex Rizicki? That's Rizicki. They collaboratively suggested the intersection of the Commerce Way with Atlantic Avenue, and then the two site driveways, the unsignalized driveway that Nick was just discussing, and then the signalized access with the Target driveway. A few slides on existing conditions. The picture on the left shows the approach as you're exiting the site. You got two separate lanes for traffic exiting the site opposite the Target driveway coming out to Commerce Way. The picture on the right shows the site north exit, exit-only driveway, looking out towards Commerce Way. But these, certainly the signalized intersection is a high-capacity design and can accommodate a lot of traffic. This slide shows the trip generation, and we had done an estimate of what Bob's Furniture or Discount Furniture previously generated, and also an estimate of what the proposed supermarket would generate, and looked at the net change between the two uses. We're only looking at, these are retail to retail. It's really an infill kind of project. We're only looking at the weekday evening and the Saturday midday time period. Most supermarkets aren't open in the morning. This site won't be different. It'll open at 9 a.m. So that's after the weekday morning peak hour. But you can see the net change is about 220 trips in the evening time period, in the evening peak hour, and about 235 during the Saturday midday peak hour. That works out to be 4 additional trips, 2 entering, 2 exiting per minute during those peak hours. But again, with the signalized access, that intersection can accommodate the proposed increases. We did do the level of service analysis, and in most cases, particularly the driveways associated with the site, looking at level of service C, level of service B, the intersection to the north at Atlantic Ave with Commerce Way. Looking at level of service D and C without the project, level of service E, and I think that's a typo, it should be E and C with the project. And The overall delay increases at these intersections due to the project is between 1.2 and 6.9 seconds per vehicle, so not a big change. I should also add that the intersection of Atlantic Avenue and Commerce Way is currently being looked at by CTPS and the city to identify traffic patterns and potential improvements there. Also, Jay Corey had mentioned that they had recently replaced some of the traffic signal equipment at that intersection. And lastly, there may be some changes that get made to that intersection due to the New Boston Street Bridge project, if there's any optimization of the signal that would occur. The last slide, just looking at recommendations and conclusions. What we had noted in the traffic counts is that there's a lot of traffic that enters that north driveway that's supposed to be an exit only. Something like 45 vehicles turning right into that driveway. So we had recommended adding do not enter signs facing Commerce Way. And there's also no stop signs, as you saw in the previous picture, and you can see on this picture, there's no stop signs on that north exit driveway, so we suggest adding those. Also, the petitioner should add information on potential TDM measures, more for the employees, obviously, than for other patrons of the site. And we're also expecting to work with the city engineer and his office to identify appropriate mitigation. But, all traffic increases are less than 7 seconds during the peak hours, and there have been or will be improvements made to the Commerce Way and Atlantic Avenue intersection. That's, sorry for going so quick. I'm just trying to keep things moving for the traffic. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Councilor Toro.
Thank you. Scott, I'd say, well, first, I appreciate it. I think this is the first traffic study that I've seen in the 2 years I've been on the council that actually showed an increase in traffic.
Kudos. Yeah, kudos.
So
I'm getting there.
Thank you.
I'm getting there. Give me time.
Still, it seems like relative to Bob's, the old furniture store there, it seems like it's a large increase, and I'd love to really know how you guys figure out how it's only a 1.5 second to 7 second increase per vehicle with such a large increase. I think we can talk about that a little bit more in committee, I think. Sure. But I'd like to know how that kind of gets calculated. One thing, when I was taking a quick look at the plans, looking at the relief for required spaces, it looks like part of the relief is accessible spaces, maybe 2 accessible spaces you're looking to eliminate. I think if I'm looking at the off-street parking summary, I think for retail supermarket, there's a requirement of 5, and the accessible proposed is only 3, if I'm not mistaken. I think I'm getting that right. Maybe that's a site civil question, sorry.
Yes, that's correct. And we can modify that to show that we meet the ADA requirement. It just may require an additional space.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm one of the at-large counselors, but I would say I would want to see, without question, the actual amount of required accessible spaces on those plans, personally. And, I'm not speaking for the council, but I'd rather see, if this was amenable to the rest of the council, I'd rather see a reduction in the regular spaces, but the accessible spaces, I think that needs to be met at all times.
Yep, not a
personally.
problem. I agree.
So, outside of that, I'm sure I'll have more questions for committee, but those are just 2 questions. First, I just wanted to thank Scott. So, and then the parking question with the accessible spots. So, thank you.
Councilor Mercer-Bruin.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councilor Toro, good point on the accessible, and there is a required amount that it's not negotiable. So, thank you for bringing that up. I too have a little bit of concern, not so much about the parking, but about the use. There is no more impactful use than a grocery store. It is the mother lode of traffic. And I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, but I need to really understand how it's going to work at this intersection. at the end of the day, there are certain points of time and of day that you can't move down there. I mean, ask anyone at lunchtime how very difficult it is to get through this intersection. The city is doing a study of this intersection, and some changes have already been made. I'm very grateful to be part of that study, along with the engineer and a couple of community representatives and Sergeant Stokes and others, but we're not done with that yet. And I want to make sure that as we continue on with that study, that we're taking into consideration what's going on here. I did see a pretty hefty list of proposed mitigation that was sent over from the engineering department. I'm not sure how much time you've spent looking at that, Scott, but when we get to committee, before then, if you could, perhaps we could have a conversation about that. I'd like to get your opinion about that. I'm a little concerned about the parking too, as it relates to the corrals. So I know you marked corrals down on here. I want to make sure that it's not taking up too much of the parking spaces, if you could have that ready for committee as well. The grab and go area. We just had a conversation about this up on Washington Street. It didn't seem, it seemed almost, it's just an add-on, but this seems like a bigger space. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I could be overstating it.
Yeah, I think for committee, we'll come in with a floor plan with a designated space.
Okay, because it does seem, on the periphery, it seemed like a much bigger part of this operation than what's going on up the street. So I really need to understand it. I did want to make a motion, please, that we send a communication to Commissioner Quinn with a copy of these plans and get his comments back before the committee meets, and that is in the form of a motion.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
The condition of the current pavement. I haven't, admittedly, I've been down there to pick up Chipotle on several occasions for my kids. I don't think that paving is in very good condition. I'm going to go down again and take a ride around the lot. Also, the striping. I don't know what kind of, I mean, when Bob's was there, it was looking a little beat up at that time, so that's just something to keep in mind, okay? That's all I have for now, President Dillon. Thank you very much. I look forward to talking about it more.
Thank you. Councilor DeMambro.
My only question, and I know why, I have a pretty good grip on why you guys put that grease trap or that grease box there. It's just, my concern is it's at the front of the building, and I'm assuming the entrance is going to be adjacent, if not right in front of it. It's been my experience as a project manager for Roto-Rooter, and those have to be cleaned out. That's one hell of a task, and it's got an aroma that comes with it. So I'm not necessarily, and there's probably a sewer line that goes right through there. So you guys want to pick that line up without having to do, I'm sure, any additional excavation work. But my concern is that grease trap being there, again, at the front door. And if and when, or if there should ever be a problem, or it has to be pumped out and cleaned, that's a task, and the aroma comes with it, and I'm not necessarily sure that's the appropriate spot for it. I know it has to go, somewhere, and I'm sure the sewer line is right in there, but that is a consideration that it's a concern of mine.
Yeah, that's correct. The existing sewer is located right where we're connecting to. The challenge we have is getting the inverts to work through the building and then getting it to drain by gravity to the sewer. When it needs to be pumped, it would be done off hours, outside of normal operations. But it is underground. All you would see from above ground is a manhole cover.
Right. Okay. That was my only concern. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilor Viola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two things that I'd like to see when we go back to committee would be Sunday daily trips, if you could bring that. And then also, I'd like to see where Chipotle is there, how many trips roughly they're getting daily, and weekends and as well?
I'll see if we can, yeah, we should be able to get something.
They should be able to pull that with probably their point of sales and try and get that. Thank you.
Make a motion, open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there anyone here that would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward. Seeing no one.
Make a motion that the matter is continued to the regular meeting of the council on July 15th, and the matter is referred to the special permits.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Next item on the agenda is to determine whether the property located at 4 Maywood Terrace is a nuisance in the term described in Chapter 139, Section 1. There were several communications, one dated May 27, 2025 from Benjamin Kodak, one from dated May 29, 2025 from Benjamin Kodak, further communication June 9, 2025 from Scott Morency, further communication dated June 9, 2025 from Susan Carpenter, and further communication dated June 10, 2025 from Elica Da Silva.
Make a motion, we receive those communications and make them part of the permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
This is Counselor.
Yes, Councilor Bowen.
Oh, thank you, President Dillon and councilors. So this has been an ongoing matter for quite some time. I think for the edification of people at home, it is within the court system now. And I know Attorney Salvati is following it closely. When I say in the court system, there is an eviction process in play. I'm going to ask Attorney Salvati, if he's still here, if he could come up and explain that process a little bit. But there is a lot of frustration in the neighborhood that this is not moving quickly enough. And I feel their frustration. The neighbors have dealt with this for a long time. And when we brought this nuisance hearing forward, I cautioned everyone, including this council, to be patient because it is a long process. Even if the council took the action to declare this a nuisance, it would still be a very long process, and I think Attorney Salvati could elaborate on that as well. But right now, where we're at is the landlord is trying to evict the current tenants who seem to be the cause of all the angst in this neighborhood, a cause of all the angst with the condition of the property, the police showing up, the firemen showing up, and many other things that are all described in these documents. I just want to assure the neighbors that this city council, the mayor's office, Attorney Salvati, everyone is doing what we possibly can do within the means of the law. Attorney Salvati, could you perhaps elaborate a little bit, if you don't mind?
I would certainly agree that this council, my office, is doing everything that it can do and has the ability to do. So I did talk to the owner of the property, who's been very cooperative with my office and has supplied me with all notifications regarding the eviction. She gave me the notice to quit, she gave me the return of service, she gave me the complaint that was filed, and she gave me the hearing notice, which is on for the 26th, which would be next Thursday, which I will attend. I did communicate a little bit with a couple of abutters, just minimally, to say that I am doing that process. Anything else would have to go through the council. As you all know, probably in Massachusetts, the eviction process can be a long process, especially if the tenants are opposed and don't have anywhere to go. So they can go in there and cry poor and get more time. I'm going to go to make sure that it's going to be expedited as best it can. I told the abutters I cannot force the court to do anything the court doesn't want to do, but I will follow through on it. Other than that, I've talked to Commissioner Quinn, who says that his matters have been rectified to her ability. Whether they crop up again and they're corrected again, I don't know, how much that is happening. But he is also on top of this. So with that, I'd say the best I can do is monitor the situation and report back to this council. So I think a little more patience would go a long way if they were to continue this to a further date.
I'm glad you brought up Commissioner Quinn, because everyone, since this has started, and even over the course of the several years that some of these incidents have happened, our policemen, our firemen, our Board of Health, our building commissioner, yourself, everyone is doing what we can within our authority. Commissioner Quinn has been diligent about sending out fines to the landlord, $300 a day in some instances. But the way it works, so everybody understands at home, once a violation has been cleared up, if the violation pops up again, then there's new notices that have to be sent. That's the law. That's how it has to be done. We have no choice. We can't just we could rewrite the laws, but that's not going to help us right now. And at the end of the day, I wanted to extend my gratitude to everyone that has tried their best to try to make things better in this neighborhood, despite the opposition to keep things worse by the people that live in that home. I would like to ask that there was a considerable amount of information sent by Mr. Kordick, or offered by Mr. Kordick that he has. If he were to send that to, I think he could send it to the courts, or on June 26th, when the hearing happens, is that a public hearing, Attorney Salvati, or is it a hearing that people can go and sit and listen to? Do people give testimony?
It's open to the public, but the only testimony would typically be from the landlord and the tenant.
Okay.
But you never know. They could open it up, and they could certainly take a written information.
Prior to this meeting in the past, I've made a motion that we send all of the communications and reports from the police and fire department and everything we have on file to the Woburn Housing Authority. I'm going to make that motion again, that we send all of that documentation. But before I do that, Attorney Salvati, I will ask you, that is the appropriate place for us to be sending it, correct? Should we send it to the court? Should this council offer that information? Are we within our legal guidelines to do that?
You have the right to do so. I don't think it'll be looked at. That's my opinion. But certainly, they will accept it.
I'm sorry?
They will accept it. Whether they review it, take it under advisement.
May I ask you the proper, I am going to have it sent if they choose not to look at it. I suppose that would be, I'd be sad about that, but you never know. Somebody might open it up.
They might.
So would it go to the Housing Authority again, or do we send it to the judge who's going to hear the petition?
The Housing Authority will not share it with the court, if that's your question.
Okay. So what's the best way?
I would say both. You have nothing to lose.
So it would be the housing court, or
Well, you're saying the Housing Authority.
Housing Authority?
Is this person under Section 8? Are they?
Yes, sir.
So, yes, that would be the advantage of sending it there.
To the Housing Authority.
They get notice of that. If you want to send it to Housing Court or to whoever, I think it's next door that this matter is being held. So there's District Court and there's Housing Court.
I just want to make sure we send it to the right place,
Well,
whether
you
or
give
not
to
they
me
open
and
it.
you give it to me and I'll send it.
Yeah, for a
That's one of the
possible solution to this.
Mhm.
Because all this documentation is public record, maybe the homeowner can provide that at the hearing?
Correct.
It may help her case in terms of the eviction?
She probably will provide it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would think.
But I
making
can ensure
that
it.
available as it is a public document,
Sure.
So,
not
Yes.
to, not to wander into legal advice, but.
Right.
so through the chair to Attorney Salvati, I assume you have most of what's been put together by this council over the course of the last 7 months, or do you need me to make a formal
No,
motion?
I can make it. I can get
Okay,
it.
because I have a stack from, it doesn't include what we've received tonight,
Yep.
but it includes everything up until then, over the course of 7 years.
Right. I can get it. I can get it from the clerk.
Okay, and you will deliver that information for us.
I will.
Thank you. That's all I have, except to apologize to the residents that we're not able to make this happen any faster than it is, and know that we'll continue to push it forward.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Make a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
Motion and a second to open the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward. How are you tonight?
Good. How are you doing?
Just
sir?
your name and address, please.
My name is Elka El Haber. I live on 6 Maywood Terrace.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the City Council. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I stand by you to urgently ask you to vote to declare the property nuisance. I do understand that it's a long process, but I'm not only here to speak on behalf of my family, but on behalf of the whole neighborhood. Castle Bruin has received a handful of emails from the neighbors all wanting the same thing. We just all want to live in a peaceful neighborhood without having all to deal with these disturbances. The police presence continues at 4 Maywood. The trash mismanagement, the screaming, the inappropriate language continues. We have to keep rat traps all over your yard to keep up with the rodents. We have been dealing with this situation for almost 8 years now. It's time for the city to act on it. We can't keep coming here and being repetitive about the same issues over and over again, and the behavior of the tenants and the landlord remains the same. In addition to the situation, the tenants have become more hostile towards us. The other day on Bow Street, during school dismissal, I was at the stop sign trying to cross Salem, and one of the tenants were behind me in their car, honking their horn and giving me the middle finger for no reason. Everyone knows how bad the traffic is at that area at that time of the day. Then when I got home, I parked my car in my driveway, and I was walking inside my house. She turns into the street, revving the engine of the car, trying to scare me or something. And then this morning, I was minding my own business, getting into my car again to leave. Somebody just puts their hands out the window and gives me the middle finger again. With all due respect, I ask you, the City Council, how would you feel having to deal with this situation daily? I respectfully ask to consider all that we have been gone through all these years, and to decision to declare the property at 4 Maywood a nuisance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elka.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in this matter? How are you, sir? Just your name and address, please.
Reggie, number 8 Maywood.
Hey, Paul.
Terrace. To all of you, especially Darlene, I just want to say thank you. I know you are all doing the best you can in this situation. I just have one question, and a process question. Perhaps the attorney could help me. We've been. I'll address through, of course. We've been involved with this for 7 years now. The past 7 months, we've been here once a month for a meeting for a status update. With all the paperwork that you already have and all the information that you already have, what stops the city from just declaring the property a nuisance? What's the next, and in other words, with the pattern of behavior that we've been able to document thus far, why can't the city, at what point can the city, I guess what's the tipping point for the city to say, okay, it is now a nuisance? Because what scares me is, and what the possibility is that even if we get the tenant, even if the tenant gets evicted tomorrow, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, there's nothing to preclude the landlord from getting another tenant in there and doing the exact same thing. So getting that tenant out might be just a temporary Band-Aid for the problem if we don't address the greater issue, right? Which is there's nothing holding the landlord accountable to not do this again. So I guess, I don't know what the threshold is to reach to declare a property an air quote nuisance. However, I feel for the past 7 years, and you all have the paperwork, we don't have to rehash that. I think the nuisance level, in my opinion, living 2 doors down, has been reached. Thank you.
Perhaps Attorney Salvati can help us with that. Thank you.
From a general standpoint, Chapter 139 deals with public nuisances and private nuisances. A public nuisance is more of a dilapidated building which causes, like the people on Warren Ave, Richmond Park there, that had toxic fumes, glass falling in the yard. At some point, this may have raised to the level of a public nuisance, but in my opinion, at least from what I've seen, the owner has rectified through the building department those public nuisances. The other part of this, the harassment of the people, the trash that's left outside, the unkept manner of the property, is really a private nuisance wherein they could go after this person individually, and it would not be in the purview of this board to declare it a public nuisance for that reasons. That's the general. I don't want to go to too many specifics of what they can and can't do. That's the general answer. I mean, it's 139 is fairly specific in certain areas that you can take this action, and many of them just, if it's a house of prostitution, if it's illegal gambling, if it's illegal sale of liquor, but it doesn't spell out exactly when you can call it that public nuisance. But I think with the corrections made here, it doesn't quite raise to the level, unfortunately for them, of a public nuisance, but it could be a private nuisance. That's the answer.
Thank you.
Mark, before you sit,
Yes, Councilor Ferrullo.
this is an ambush. I'm giving you a fair warning because I don't know.
Go ahead.
I'm not, on Campbell Street, within the last decade, we put a house in receivership on the left-hand side about 3/4 of the way up. I don't know the number. I don't know the standards. I don't know the process. I don't know anything. Is that something, you're shaking your head, so you might, I forget what we did.
Well, we discussed that, and I think that was more towards the building than the tenants.
Campbell Street, in my recollection, it wasn't that long ago, had more, there were issues with the building, but there were more issues with the activities that were going around the building. The police were there all the time. There was, in fact, a shooting. There was drugs. There was, thank God there hasn't been a shooting on Maywood, but we all know from proof in the records that there were drugs being dealt there. I think we could declare it a nuisance, that we could take that action. Whether or not it sticks is another question.
Correct.
I do believe this council has the authority, and I don't think, Attorney Salvati, you ever said we don't.
I don't. That's
The
correct.
question is, will it stick? And will it get immediate relief for this neighborhood? It will not, because it's just the first step. And I'm not suggesting that we don't do it. If we don't see some action from the courts with what's going on with this, with all the evidence that's been presented, this council should declare it a nuisance. But I want it to be very clear to the neighbors, that is not going to fix it tomorrow. It's just another step in the process. A step I am happily ready to make. I just don't know where it's going to lead us.
Councilor Demers.
Attorney Salvati, so on the hearing that's being held on the 26th, do you expect there to be a judgment handed down that day, or will the judge hold his decision and then?
Typically, well, in my experience, typically you go to an agreement for judgment, and that would allow a certain period of time. You get an execution within, say, 30 or 60 days. An execution just gives the constable or sheriff the right to physically remove the people from the premises. So that's the goal of the landlord at these hearings, to get that judgment. And if it goes to a full-blown hearing and the court issues a judgment, that execution could issue fairly quickly. But typically, a judge would give a tenant 30 to 60 days.
That was 30, 60 days to remove or respond to the judgment?
No, to get out.
Okay.
That's post-judgment.
Mm-hmm, okay.
Now, they could file an answer and a complaint and a counterclaim. I don't know if they've done that. I don't think they have, which could delay it further, so that the landlord would then answer the counterclaim and,
Yeah, I just wanted that to be brought up so that everybody
Yeah,
who's
that's the
party to
general-
this problem understands what timeline we're dealing with here.
That's the general time frame of most of these, and in my experience, typically it's been an agreement for judgment, which gets an execution, but gives them a certain amount of time to get out.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Just from the chair, one of the strongest recommendations I think I heard tonight in this matter was from Councilor Demers explaining that if the landlord is provided with the information, she's the one who's going to be in housing court, and she's the one in front of the judge. And again, I'm speaking from experience, being many times in housing court. She's the one that's there. She's going to be the strongest advocate. If she has that information, he's going to look at it more than likely with her presenting it rather than mailing it in, sending it in. So I think that's an excellent recommendation.
I'll ensure that happens.
Thank you, Mark.
Councilor Bowen.
Through Attorney Salvati, there's some concern by some of the neighbors that the landlord won't advocate strongly because she's just, there to collect a check and doesn't really care about what's happening in the neighborhood. Now, if you were to come back to the council and report back to us that she did present this evidence that the council has put together on behalf of the neighbors and the neighbors sent to us, that would speak volumes.
I would agree.
So will you come back to this council and report one way or the other how strongly she advocated for this?
I will.
Because I have to tell you, if I don't hear that she strongly advocated, and obviously it's a public record, right? This council should move immediately to declare it a nuisance, and we'll do the best that we can from our end.
As is your right.
Does that sound reasonable? I know the neighbors aren't going to want to wait one more day, and I don't blame them. This has been going on for a long time. The process of the nuisance started 7 or 8 months ago. But I think that is a reasonable approach.
I will report back for the July 15th hearing, either in person or in writing.
Okay.
Councilor DeMambo.
And I will support that, Councilor Marissa Bruin, because this has gone on long enough. And I just don't understand how there's so many loopholes in this. We can't have this. You just can't have it. It's been going on 7, 8 years. The neighbors need relief. I understand that the court system's convoluted when it comes to, tenants and this and that. And there's a right and a wrong, and this is all wrong. So whatever we have to do, if this isn't advocated strongly in the court and you come back and say it wasn't, I will support that 100%. I think all of us will support you 100% on moving this forward through the city council. Thank you.
Councilor Viola.
Thank you. And as the previous councilors have said, I would support that as well. One thing the residents could do, I don't know the criteria, however, you could reach out to the Woburn Police Department and possibly seek a harassment prevention order against the neighbors that are harassing you. So that is one of your legal options that you could seek. Thank you.
Anyone else? That's it? Can we?
Is there anybody else from the
Is there
public?
anybody else?
Anyone else in the public that would like to speak on this? How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Good.
Name and address, please?
Susan Carpenter, I'm at 12 Maywood Terrace.
Thank you.
I guess we can skip all the details. This is a summation of what I was going to say. And a lot of this has just been blown out of the water by the discussion about, is it a nuisance, isn't it? Waiting for the eviction proceeding, we don't know which way that's gonna go. So things could stay the same. The eviction notice of the hearing's been set. Well, the landlord visited the property June 8th, and we ended up with 3 cruises in the neighborhood, again. So it's like nothing is changing. So with that being said, an issue that was brought up way in the beginning was the activity of the tenants is the landlord's responsibility, correct? Am I correct in that? I think, even Alderman Toro said, the landlord.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Yeah. And it's like, so where has her responsibility been the past 8 months in resolving any of this? I don't know. Maybe you guys are all satisfied. Because she's presented with an issue and resolves it. Like, to your point, Darlene, that, once an issue is resolved, then it's gone away. So I don't know, I mean, if it is the subsidized housing, the Woburn Housing Authority should be involved. Are they involved? Can they get involved with issues like harassing neighbors? I mean, I don't know what the WHA, what their responsibility is. with
Through
this
the,
type
through the
of-
chair, that would be a matter for the police, and I know over the course of the last couple of months, when I've heard from neighbors about some of these incidents, I've replied back an email and phone
Right.
saying you must contact the police. If anyone ever feels unsafe, that is your first call, not to me. You can call and tell me about it later, but call the police. They will obviously come, and you can file a complaint. You can file a restraining order, in fact. And some of the descriptions of what I've heard rises to that level. I absolutely would. I've told, some of the neighbors that. But in terms of this landlord, when we were about to declare this a nuisance, she did take the step to say, I want them out. I'm going to, as the person who owns the property, she agreed to take the step to try to get them evicted. That is the process that she's following.
Right.
That was the process that Attorney Slavati advised this council, see it through, see what happens. If we hear back that nothing happens, I think I know you heard from me, and I know you heard from Councilor DeMambro. If you want to go around the room and take a straw poll, I think you'll know it's a 9-0 vote here the next time we meet.
Right, okay.
And we have done our due diligence to that point. And then, if that process does come forward and we declare it a nuisance, we can sit down and have a neighborhood meeting so people understand what is involved with that.
Now, is there a way I can get the information? I just don't know why the WHA hasn't been involved with.
The Woburn Housing Authority will not comment on
Oh, no.
anything as it relates to Section 8.
Correct. What is their responsibility, though? Not associated with 4 Maywood Terrace or any other property? I mean, because I called down there and I got, because I mentioned the address, they couldn't even tell me what the law was.
Right.
But, so I'm just curious about the law. I mean, what is their responsibility when a house has subsidized housing in it? What are they responsible for? Inspecting the house, making sure things go well, landlords attending to issues? I mean,
I would think all of that would fall under their purview, or at least some of it.
right,
Um,
that was a question I asked of the Woburn Housing Authority, and then they shut me down. So,
And I honestly don't have an answer for you. Because it says City Councilor Mercer Bruin,
Yep.
I don't get those questions answered either.
right. I don't know who gets
But
them, but.
through the chair to Attorney Slavati, what their purview is and what, yeah.
So are they
We
just
can try to find out, Susan.
don't
I
know.
mean,
Agency.
Oh, no,
to-
no, I know that they're a separate
what?
entity, but,
it's a federal agency, am I?
well, yeah, it goes under HUD and comes down, but the WHA would be responsible for the properties here locally, I would think.
I would think through the chair that,
Sure, from the
that
crowd.
what what they're responsible for, regardless of who's living in the house, should be the same. You would think, that would make sense, right? But that is not the case. So I don't know.
Okay, maybe I'll go to one of their hearings. They're open meetings, yeah. See if I can get some.
I'm going to try to go to the hearing on the 26th and sit in the back of the room to hear what happens.
So,
Mr.
so
President.
everything I wrote pretty much is moot at this point because no one's taking a vote tonight, correct? Am I correct in that assumption? Okay, good. So I'll see you on the 7th.
15th.
15th, I'm sorry. Yeah, the 7th was the other date that we were discussing. Yeah. Okay, so I'll be back on the 15th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Councilor Fool?
Mr. President, if I could briefly provide clarity on the restraining
Please.
order issue, I'll be 90 seconds. Anything like this is a civil issue, which, if you Google the number 258E, would take people to a Massachusetts trial court 258E. It's a civil matter that has to be heard by the alleged victim of the harassment, and the police department will document the harassment, but it's not the same as a domestic restraining order, which falls under a different chapter and section. So it will be incumbent upon the people being harassed with the harassment on the street and the fingers out the window and stuff, that they take it to district or superior court. District oftentimes sends it up to superior court. They're both right in Woburn, but it's a 258E order is what they're looking for, not a true restraining order. That's reserved for domestic violence. Just so they all don't go down there and talk to the police department, that's a clearer answer on where to go and what to do.
And if I may add just one
Yes,
thing.
Councilor Demis.
Based on previously what Councilor Mercer Bruin stated, contacting the police department puts it on the record.
Yeah.
Your lack
Get a
of
log
con-
number.
If you do not contact the police department, they cannot compile that record and provide that information at that hearing to show that you do have multiple moments of harassment occurring in your neighborhood.
And this, you need it's three or more issues of harassment by the same people. And if you can document 3 specific times, police department reports are helpful. Even there's one as simple as driving out of Bow Street onto Salem Street. If you document that, you have three of those, that's a standard to get the order issued, just to provide a clearer path to where you need to go.
Thank you, Councilor Fool. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in this matter? How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Just your name and address, please.
Deborah McLaughlin, 23 Faith Street, Wilmington. I just want to assure everyone that I'm doing everything I possibly can to get them out of the house. I was there in June trying to do some things that Section 8 wanted me to fix, and they would not allow me in, and I needed to call the police to have it on record that I tried to fix that. They are not part of Woburn Housing, they're Metro Housing Boston. They have all the information. I have forwarded all the paperwork. They know what's going on. They can't do anything about it. So it's in the hands of the courts to decide what happens next.
So, through the chair.
Yes, Councilor.
So you were at your property,
Yes.
your home that you own,
Yes,
and you were not allowed into that home.
correct.
And that's why the police were there,
Or in the yard if they don't want.
or even on the property.
Right. I was trying to take down the shed because there was rat's nest underneath, and they wouldn't allow me to do that.
The people that are renting the house from you would not allow you to do anything on the property that you own. That's a sad state of affairs
Right.
in this state
Yes.
of
The
Massachusetts.
police came and said there was nothing that I could do, there's nothing that they can do. I tried to have the pest control come, they wouldn't let them in. I am trying to do everything I possibly can.
Well, you'll be armed with all the information you need on the 26th, Deborah, and I'm going to try to be there. I don't think it's a public hearing, but if there is opportunity to speak, I certainly will. I have no further questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming
Thank
down.
you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else on this matter that would like to speak? Seeing nobody.
Make a motion that the public hearing be continued to the regular meeting of the city council on July 15th.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Next item on the agenda is CB Silver LLC, proposed zoning amendment to amend section 7.3 and section 7.4. A communication dated June 5th, 2025 was received from Attorney Atarby, requesting this be continued to the July 15th meeting.
Make a motion that the communication be received, made part of the permanent record.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second to open the public
Bless you.
hearing, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in this matter? Please step forward.
Make a motion to continue the public hearing to the regular meeting of the council on July 15th.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Next item on the agenda on the committee reports is finance. On the fiscal year 2026 capital budget, order that the sum of $4,739,075.17 be transferred from unreserved fund balance account to various capital projects. The committee report was received back for action.
Make a motion the committee report be adopted.
It's an order. There's no-
I'm sorry, the order be adopted. I
Second.
amend my
A
roll call.
motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
On the order that the sum of $118,000 be appropriated from cemetery interest fund to various cemetery accounts,
Make a motion the committee report be adopted.
which was ought to pass.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
On the order that $103,599.40 be transferred from unreserved balance account to park sick leave buyback. The committee report was received ought to pass.
Same action.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
On the order that $150,000 be transferred from unreserved fund balance account to Medicare match account. A committee report was received ought to pass.
Same action.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
On the order that $750,000 be transferred from overlay reserve account to trust fund account, OPEB trust fund account. A committee report was received ought to pass.
Make a motion the committee report be adopted.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
The Committee on Personnel, on the reappointment of Eleanor Collins to the Woburn Council on Aging. The committee report received ought to pass.
Make a motion the committee report be adopted.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
On the reappointment of Emily A. Lipset to the Board of Trustees to the Woburn Public Library. The committee report was received ought to pass.
Motion that the committee report be adopted.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
On the reappointment of Lawrence R. Rido to the Board of Trustees to the Woburn Public Library. The committee report was received ought to pass.
Motion the committee report be adopted.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
From the Committee on Public Safety and License, on the petition for the renewal of livery licenses for Boston Express Livery Services, Inc. at 165 New Boston Street. A committee report was received ought to pass.
Same action.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
On the petition by the Shamrock Running Club for a special event permit to allow for a road race at Spence Farm on July 4th. A committee report received ought to pass.
Make a motion the committee report be adopted.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
On the petition for renewal of second-hand dealers and second-hand collector's license from Musso Jewelers at 186 Cambridge Road, the committee report was received ought to pass.
Same action.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
On appointments and elections, on the appointment of Talia Moat to the Woburn Planning Board.
Make a motion that the matter be referred to the committee on personnel.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
On the appointment of Thomas J. Quigley to the Woburn Golf and Ski Authority.
Same action.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
On the motions, orders, and resolutions from the Traffic Commission. The Traffic Commission order to amend Schedule 1 parking restrictions to allow no parking on the southerly side of Mansport.
Make a motion the order be adopted.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 9:23.